Welcome back to Black Liberty. I appreciate you tuning in today. If this is your first time listening, hit the subscribe button down below. Leave a thumbs up, leave a thumbs down, leave a like. Whether you like it or dislike it, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. So, been a couple weeks. I haven't been able to drop a podcast. I've been really busy getting things together. School starting back up for my children. Also, I was sick at one point. Thank God I didn't have COVID, but whatever it was, it had me down for the count. But nevertheless, we here. We gonna make it happen. So, let's get straight into our topic today that I find is really interesting and doesn't get a lot of attention. So today's topic is ADHD in the black community. I feel like there's something deeper going on when it comes to ADHD. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because there are a lot of friends that I have that I see on social media that post statuses and they talk about their struggle with ADHD. So before I even go forward, I want to make one thing clear. ADHD is a real medical condition. I don't want anybody to take this podcast as me saying that it's not. The information that I'm providing you is to make you look at this medical condition from a different perspective, because when we talk about medical conditions in the black community, we have to understand that we cannot look at things through the same lens as other races, because this history has this country has a history of misdiagnosing, underdiagnosing, and overdiagnosing black children. And so the black community in America, the black communities in America, the black population in America doesn't have a good rapport when it comes to the medical field in America. Because at one point they would experiment on black men, women, and children. And they even used to teach in their medical books that black people don't feel pain the same as other races do. So therefore it created this distrust that even to this day black Americans still feel when it comes to the medical industry. Because even when we go into hospitals, we don't receive the same treatment 9 times out of 10 as the white person down the hall or the white person in the room next door. We're neglected more than any other race when it comes to being in the hospitals. And that's it for me. You can look that up and see. So again, talking about ADHD, what is ADHD? ADHD, first of all, was first mentioned in 1902 by a British pediatrician named Sir George. And this was his description of ADHD. He described it as an abnormal defect of moral control in children. He found that some affected children could not control their behavior the way that a typical child would, but they were still intelligent. So it wasn't that they couldn't learn. It wasn't that they couldn't accomplish the same things as a typical child could, but they just had a difficult controlling their behavior. Maybe they lashed out more. Maybe they were more hyper. Maybe they were more playful. Whatever the case may be, there was something different than what they considered a typical child would behave like. Now, it wasn't until the late 1960s that the APA, the American Psychiatric Association, recognized ADHD as a mental disorder. It didn't start off as a mental disorder. And me personally, I don't believe that it's a mental disorder. I don't believe anybody struggling with ADHD has something wrong with their brain. I don't believe that anybody struggling with ADHD has a mental disorder that doesn't allow them to function normally. I don't believe that in any kind of way. I feel like that is a misrepresentation of what ADHD is, but that's just my opinion. So, as you begin to do research and you begin to look this up, one thing that I found interesting was non-Hispanic black children are more likely than non-Hispanic whites to be diagnosed with ADHD. Sorry, that's my dog, y'all. To be diagnosed with ADHD. I find that very interesting. With the history that the black community has in America, the fact that black children are diagnosed twice as much with ADHD compared to white children. So I said, okay, let me continue to do my research. So in 1998, there was an annual report from the Federal Office of Special Education Program. And they noted that between 1980 and 1990, black children were placed in special education more than twice the rate of whites. More than twice the rate of whites. Think about that. Something ain't right about that. So there was a woman, her name was Dennis, and she was a member of the NMA and a former special education teacher in Washington, D.C. And she agreed that there are a large number of children in special education programs that don't need to be there. So she said that one problem, and I love the way that she put this. One problem is that they are not looking at the whole of the child. If you haven't had anything to eat since yesterday at lunchtime, you won't be able to focus. And I love that. I love the way that she put that. Because I used to be a daycare teacher and an aftercare director. And one thing that I noticed was children, first of all, children are children. Children are naturally going to be hyper. That's just them. They are balls of energy because their bodies and their minds have not been, what's the word I'm looking for? They haven't been bottled down with the same stress that an adult has. They haven't been introduced to certain foods that adults have. It's just certain things that adults have gone through that cause our bodies to kind of weaken and become brittle that children haven't experienced yet, most children. And so therefore, they want to play, they want to run, they want to get that energy out. It does not mean that they have ADHD or they have a mental disorder simply because a child cannot sit still. Period. No matter how much you try and say it. So there was another lady, her name was Sheila Zugowski, and she evaluated 50 to 60 children a year for special education services in New York. And most of them were black and Hispanic. And she stressed, the biggest predictor of success in schools is socioeconomic status, and a lot of black kids are from a lower socioeconomic status. Let me say that again. The biggest predictor of success in schools is socioeconomic status, and a lot of black kids are from lower socioeconomic classes. So, what she's saying here is that a lot of times what determines your success is the economic status of your home life. It depends on if a child comes from successful parents or a child comes from a privileged household, 9 times out of 10 that child is going to grow up and be successful because that's what's being replicated. He's seeing his parents, he's seeing his home life, he's seeing the people around him. They live in a good area. They don't live in ghettos. They don't live in poverty. So therefore, they're 9 times out of 10, they're going to be more, they're going to grow and become more successful because of that. That's what they grew up in. But when you have a child and you have parents who live in poverty and then they send a child to a school that isn't given the resources to take care of that child and provide that child with the teaching that the child needs, 9 times out of 10 that child is not going to be successful. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have that you can't be successful if you come from that type of social class, but it simply means that you have a harder struggle when it comes to becoming successful compared to a child that comes from a upper class lifestyle. Now, one of my biggest issues with ADHD when it comes to black kids is this. And it just makes sense to me, okay? Black children are more active than white children. That's hands down. It's not debatable. That's just fact. We have to understand something. The melanin in your skin produces energy. Black kids that can't sit still you automatically label them with ADHD or some kind of mental disorder. You have to understand that black skin soaks up the rays from the sun, and that produces energy. Melanin, the melanin in our skin, soaks up the rays from the sun, and it produces energy. So therefore, it's almost like walking around and being a human solar panel. The sun it gives us more energy. That's why black people were able to survive in Africa for so long, and were able to build entire civilizations and be able to survive in the heat, is because the sun gives us energy, because the melanin in our skin soaks it up and reproduces it as energy. This is why I said we need to look at things when it comes to black people in America. We have to look at things from a different perspective. We cannot allow our children to be diagnosed with the same kind of conditions simply because the rest of the world, the rest of the country says, well, this is what it is because we see he's having the same symptoms, so this is ADHD. No. You have to understand that this black children, period, are hyper. There's not one black child on the face of this earth that is born that is not a hyper child. He gonna have some kind of energy one way or another. That's just how black children are born, period, because of the melanin in their skin. Now, you diagnose this child, it automatically thinks something is wrong with this child simply because he's reacting to a natural biological function within himself or herself. The problem is not the child. The problem is the teacher not being properly trained to teach the black kids. They're not given the resources to teach black children. But it's easy to lie to black children and tell them something's wrong with them. It's the lack of resources that don't allow the teacher to be able to handle an active black child. That's the issue. It's not the child. The child is doing what he gonna do. He or she gonna do. It's the teacher not being properly trained to take care of that child while that child is in their classroom. So look at what happens. The teacher can't deal with that child, and they can't deal with how active that child is. So they meet with the parents, and they tell the parents that he or she might have ADHD or some other mental disorder. They have the child evaluated and tested, and they give the child a test that is not designed for that black child. They give the child the same test as the white child that came in 2 weeks ago. Instead of understanding that you have to look at things from a different lens and a different perspective when dealing with black children. So 9 times out of 10, that black child is going to fail that test, because that test is not properly created for that child. So for that black child. So then you tell the child that the child has a condition. Then they sell you on some kind of medication, and they say that it'll keep them calm and keep them focused. Now you are conditioning your child to believe that they have a problem. Now, not only have you conditioned your child's mind, your black child's mind, to believe something is wrong with them in their body in the first place, you have created an addict. You've turned your child into an addict. So now, from there, after they become a drug addict, because now they're addicted to the medicine and they feel like they need the medicine in order to sit still and in order to stay calm, and they never needed it in the first place, now you're burning a hole in your pocket to pay for this medicine. So the pharmaceutical company that is providing the medicine for your child for a condition that they never had in the first place, now they have a lifetime customer. We have to understand something. The body reacts to the mind. When you teach a child that something is wrong with that child, the more you condition the mind to believe something is wrong with the body is going to react to that, and you will believe the rest of your life that something is wrong with your body. This is what we're doing to our children when it comes to ADHD. So, check this out. So, the average lifespan of a black American is 80 years old. So, on average, a child is diagnosed around the ages of 5 to 9. So, we'll say 75 years using the medication that they give you. 75, because children that are diagnosed with ADHD or even adults that spend money on ADHD and therapy, y'all roughly spend about $2,000 a year on this. So let's take 75 times 2,000. This equals roughly around $150,000 that you will spend in your lifetime on ADHD medicine. $150,000 in the ballpark that you're going to spend in your lifetime on ADHD medicine for a condition that you never had. Hate me if you want to, it's just the truth. It's a money game. They see an opportunity. If they can make money, they're going to diagnose our children with this. And it's easier to diagnose a black child with something than it is a white child, because this system is already designed to say that we are different when it comes to white people. In a negative way. Not in a positive way, in a negative way. So, we have to get this understanding, and we have to teach these things. And like I said in the beginning, I'm not saying that ADHD isn't real. It's a real medical condition. But we have to be very careful about allowing these people to diagnose our black children with medical conditions that they don't have. And then you're spending $150,000 in your whole lifetime. Do you know what you can do in a lifetime with $150,000? Do you know what you could do as a black man or a woman with $150,000? Do you know what kind of communities we could begin to build? Do you know what kind of things, businesses we could start? If every single child that is diagnosed with ADHD is not diagnosed with it, we have to start opening up and being vocal about, okay, I want to see the test that you're getting ready to give my child. Is this test a correlation? Is it geared towards helping my child, my black child? Or is it the same test that you're giving little Johnny up the road? And then again, you wonder why we don't trust the medical industry. It's because, and this isn't the only thing, this is just one topic. I'm going to be doing podcasts on more than one topic. But again, I wanted to get this information out there. I wanted to put it out there because I found it pretty interesting. And if you feel like I'm wrong about anything, please feel free. Let me know. I'd love to have the conversation with you. I could give you the 2 resources that I have from where I got my information from. And I mean, hey, it's a podcast. It's how I feel. Like I said, I always do my research before I talk about anything. But I also add my opinions and how I feel about it as well. I'm not saying ADHD isn't a real thing. I'm just saying it's something that we should look at more deeply. Something that we should pay attention to more, because at one point we were underdiagnosed with it, and now we're being overdiagnosed with it. And I feel like that's a really big issue that we need to take care of, and we need to really focus on and hone in on. So again, I just wanted to get that out to y'all. I appreciate all the love and the support. I appreciate you listening. If you listen to the whole podcast, I'm so happy. Thank you. Let me know what you think. I love y'all. Continue to be blessed. Continue to love one another, no matter what race. Continue to guide and be spiritual leaders for each other. And y'all continue to have a blessed day.